Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Two quarterbacks got paid big time this weekend. One team got it right, while another team panicked to the tune of big dollar signs. Also, Team USA stomped Serbia on Sunday, and is Trevor Lawrence the next quarterback in a long line of overpaid and underachieving? Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Make every moment more. With the NBA and NHL playoffs deep in our rear view now, sports are not sportsing like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
The Green Bay Packers and the Miami Dolphins locked up their franchise quarterbacks on Friday. Tua went first. And in his deal, he got the Jared Goff deal plus one. Jared Goff, $53 million. Tua, $53.1 million. Okay. Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers later that evening agreed on a $55 million deal with a record-setting $75 million due at signing, tying the biggest number ever given out on an annual basis with Joe Burrow, a consensus elite quarterback, and Trevor Lawrence, who we'll be talking about a little bit later. The difference in the Tua contract and the Jared Goff contract is marginal in the grand scheme of things. Less than $2 million in the case of Tua Tagovailoa. But do you watch Joe Burrow and Tua Tagovailoa and think, yeah, there's a $2 million difference in the play of those two players? In some ways, though, the Tua fans will say, look, Joe Burrow benefits from having Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. What would he look like without them? Look at what Jake Browning did last year with those players and Zach Taylor and everything else in Cincinnati. But have you ever watched Miami and thought, Tua is the only guy who could do that? That Tua was the guy driving the bus, not Mike McDaniel? Not the unique set of skills that Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill bring to bear in an offense? And do you really need to spend $53 million on Tua when we saw at the end of last year and in the postseason that there is just something fundamental about this team that doesn't quite work in those circumstances? And that is why you play. You play as an organization, not as a player. As a player, you play to have a career and, of course, be great, but it's a career. You're trying to make money. Teams are trying to win. And if your quarterback is not a driver of your team winning, then you don't have to pay him a top or near top of the market contract. Teams do, because they look around at the landscape and they go, well, our guy's better than most of these guys. So I don't want to deal with what the Panthers have been dealing with, what the Titans have been dealing with, what the Bears have been dealing with for 100 years trying to find their quarterback. None of these owners are going to live that long. They don't want to deal with that. And so they panic and they pay. Whereas we saw Jordan Love in this most recent postseason put together a near perfect passer rating against one of the top defenses in the league on the road, the youngest playoff team with a win in league history. They were the youngest team in the league last year, went to the playoffs. In the second half of that season, Jordan Love, the final 8 games, put up a touchdown to interception ratio that no first-time starter in the modern era, not named Mahomes or Lamar, put together. And for the year, we're talking about a guy who was second in the league in touchdown passes, top 5 in efficiency stats like EPA per play and DVOA and DYAR. He was 6th. He was the constant with first-year pass catchers, the youngest group of pass catchers in modern history, a rotating door at left tackle and right guard until Rasheed Walker took that job. David Bakhtiari, the all-pro left tackle, goes out week 1. Aaron Jones in and out of the lineup all season. Christian Watson in and out of the lineup all season. Your stud rookie tight end misses 6 weeks with a freak spleen injury. And you still produce at an elite level. Jordan Love is a bus driver. You pay bus drivers. You know, when you get on the bus, you don't pay the other riders. They're just on the bus. You pay the guy driving the bus. Now you pay the machine, right? But you pay to have someone drive you somewhere. Jordan Love can drive the Packers to a Super Bowl. Can Jared Goff do the same for the Lions? Can Tua do the same for the Dolphins? Can Jalen Hurts do the same for the Eagles? They almost did. But they don't play for almost. Stay up to date all year with the Green Bay Packers and Miami Dolphins by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today, Locked On Packers, and Locked On Dolphins on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, Team USA showed up on the basketball court on Sunday. Were we just worried about nothing? Before we get to that, teams were wheeling and dealing over the weekend as the MLB trade deadline approaches. No football, no NBA, no problem with FanDuel. With baseball, the Olympics, there's plenty to dive into over at FanDuel Golf, America's #1 sports book. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. With the moves that have happened so far, FanDuel believes that the NL Championship Series could possibly be the actual World Series this year. The Dodgers are the favorites to win the World Series. FanDuel has them at plus 320. The Phillies right behind them at plus 460. The Yankees are the favorite AL team, plus 550, followed closely by their division rival, Orioles. No, they can't win the pennant. They can't win the title. They can't win the World Series. Plus 650. What are you waiting for? Head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Two MLB teams have already acquired star talent potential, starting the Yankees, who got Jazz Chisholm from the Marlins.
Well, the New York Yankees made a move. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias, co-host of Locked On Yankees, and the Yankees traded for Jazz Chisholm Jr. of the Miami Marlins. Now, this trade had been rumored for the past few days. There were also reports that maybe the Yankees were worried about acquiring Chisholm just because of personality issues he's had in the past, but it seems they don't care because they made the move on Saturday afternoon. They're sending 3 prospects down to the Miami Marlins, including catcher Agustin Ramirez. As for Chisholm, he plays 3 positions: center field, shortstop, second base. So he's versatile that way. He also likes to spray the ball all over the field. Great. The Yankees need that as well. He's also speedy on the base paths. Another thing the Yankees need for their stalled offense aside from Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. So we will have everything you need to know about this trade on the next Locked On Yankees, and hopefully before the next Locked On Yankees, there will be more trades to discuss.
The other big trade was the Mariners acquiring Randy Arozarena.
Finally, Randy Arozarena is a Seattle Mariner. Colby, what do you think?
I don't want to say they have their Robin to Julio's Batman, but they do have a guy.
That's the idea.
Right. They do have a guy who does have some star power. He has personality. He's pretty well liked across the league as far as we know. I believe him and Julio are actually pretty close, like off the field. Randy Arozarena, by the way, a career 289, 333, 511 hitter at T-Mobile Park. Now, granted, that's only 48 plate appearances, but this guy has had success at T-Mobile Park.
Well, just general with hitters, right? Like anytime they add a hitter, you never know. Especially a guy like Randy, who's going from, Tropicana Field, an indoor stadium, to, the confines of T-Mobile Park in Seattle, Washington.
The Orioles made a few moves to shore up their pitching staff, the biggest being their addition of Zach Eflin.
Live from the Jersey Shore once again, the Orioles now have their starting pitcher at the deadline, getting the veteran right-hander Zach Eflin in a deal with the Tampa Bay Rays. Eflin, who is under control through 2025 as well, so that's big for next year's Orioles, but also helps this year, where I think he could be the number 3 starter in the playoffs behind Rodriguez and Burns. Now, the Orioles did give up a little bit. Matthew Etzel, the prospect, has popped this year. Mac Horvath has some good tools, and Jackson Ballmeister was the highest pick via pitcher that Mike Elias has ever taken in the draft last year, but got to give up good players to get good players. You get a solid number 3 starter for a year and a half, and you don't give up any of your top 10 prospects. I would call this another win trade for the Orioles, and they've now added a reliever, an outfielder, and a starter, and they may not be done, but Zach Eflin was one of the guys I wanted, and the O's, without paying too much, went and got him to add to this rotation.
And some sad news out of Patriots training camp. Defensive tackle Christian Barmore, one of the best players at his position in the league, is dealing with something more than your typical injury. The Patriots released a statement over the weekend saying that Christian Barmore was diagnosed with blood clots. He was appropriately treated by the doctors at Mass General Brigham, who tested, evaluated, and treated Christian. Our principal concern, they said, at this time is Christian's health and well-being. Fortunately, Mass General Brigham provides some of the best healthcare in the world. While there is no current timetable for his return, we know Christian is getting tremendous care, and we look forward to his recovery. Against South Sudan in a friendly, Team USA men's basketball barely survives thanks to some LeBron James heroics. Against the reigning league MVP in the NBA and the Serbian team, Team USA cruises a 110-84 win against Nikola Jokic and company. John Corrales from Locked On NBA and Locked On Celtics joins me now. And John, was the whole pre-Olympic run-up just much ado about nothing? Like, this is the team we're going to see from here on out?
Well, I mean, they didn't have Kevin Durant. He came off the injury and was perfect in the first half, dropped 21 first half points. And, you know, the pre-Olympic exhibitions weren't exactly going to get top effort from everybody. So a thing like South Sudan happens and some of those closer games happen. This is a little bit more indicative of what we can see from Team USA. Not exactly like they won by 26. It wasn't a 26-point game throughout. It is much closer, and it was much closer in the Jokic minutes for sure. But also the inevitability of the Americans and so much talent and just Durant and LeBron, even at this age, being as good as they are. Yeah, this is more of what we can expect.
Yeah, Kevin Durant has a chance to solidify himself as the greatest basketball Olympian in men's Team USA history, given what he's done over the last couple of Olympics here. Let's talk about one player who did not contribute, and that was Jason Tatum, who did not see the floor. He didn't even get in some cardio, John, at the end of this one. Why do you think that is? And Steve Kerr said, look, Kevin Durant, we're just working him back in, but a minute, he could have gotten a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I think the minute would have been more disrespectful than the full DNP.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, I think there are a few things at play, and I will give Kerr, the benefit of the doubt as far as 40 minutes versus 48, right? And 40 minutes makes it a lot harder because 8 minutes for, if there were 8 extra minutes, those would have gone to Tatum, and you could have at that point pared down a couple of other guys to a couple minutes here or there, and Tatum could have gotten 14, 15 minutes. And that's kind of where everybody is. A couple of guys get 25, 26, but there's so much talent that there aren't a ton of minutes being played anyway. But Tatum being a full-on DNP coach's decision is a little kind of crazy. But I think Joel Embiid getting the start and clearly being, I think, promised minutes or something, because he's been the biggest sore thumb on this team. Everybody's kind of wondering why he's playing. If he didn't play, you could start Anthony Davis, and then you can bring Jason Tatum in off the bench with Bam Adebayo, and that would be a great 4-5 front court for Team USA. And Devin Booker hit some shots, but he hasn't exactly been tearing it up either. So there are some lineup tweaks that can be made, but it starts with Embiid getting a bunch of minutes as the starting center. And when that's the case, other guys are going to get the minutes. And Tatum hasn't exactly been tearing it up, and you can sit a guy as good as he is because you have these other guys in Durant and LeBron. You still won by 26. It's kind of hard to complain that much, but I still find it hard to believe that Tatum can't get some minutes, especially coming off the championship and 2 of his teammates are there. It's a proof of concept has been proven. Those 3 guys play well together. Why not play those 3 guys together for stretches and capitalize on the chemistry that they have?
Part of this seems like just the structure of Team USA. You look at these other national teams, they play more games together as a group. They know what the pecking orders are. They know what the rotations are. Team USA just doesn't have that because of the way this is all structured. You mentioned Joel Embiid. We're talking about a guy who at the start of last season looked like he was going to run away with the MVP, was the most dominating force in the league. I know FIBA basketball, international basketball, not the same, but he got the quick hook in this game. And to your point, looked like he just should not be playing instead of Anthony Davis.
It's kind of funny. And it is no disrespect to Embiid. He's an MVP caliber player.
Yes.
But in this setting, the way Team USA is built, you can see why the Sixers are built a certain way and play a certain way versus Team USA. They have certain players. This is an up-tempo, very switchable, very versatile team. When Embiid is on the floor, he is just the last guy up the floor. They play so slow. He's just, and he makes some plays because he's great, but the fit is not there. But there were 3 countries competing for his services, and he's chasing an Olympic gold medal. And maybe the writing's on the wall that he can't get a championship in Philly, and this is his best chance at winning something. So he chose Team USA instead of playing in France and whatever. They had to have promised him some minutes. They had to have said, if you play for us, you will start, you will get these minutes, and there's nothing that Steve Kerr is not allowed to not start you. But that does take away from what should happen. What should happen is Anthony Davis should be the starting center. And with no 3-second rule, he can park himself in the middle of the lane and no one is scoring against him. And if you wanted to play, like I said before, Tatum, Derek White, and Drew Holiday together and take advantage of a championship core with Bam Adebayo and Anthony Davis, no one is scoring against that group. You can go on a ready-made 20-0 run because there's no way anybody's going to hit a basket against that defensive alignment. But if minutes are promised and Steve Kerr is handcuffed, then that's what it is. And so Joel Embiid's going to get time.
Stay up to date all year on the hardwood by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On NBA on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, is Trevor Lawrence already in danger of not living up to his contract? Trevor Lawrence signed a massive contract this past offseason. That means expectations increase, like a lot. So far in camp, though, this performance has been lacking. Locked On NFL host David Harrison and Tony Wiggins, who happens to be Locked On Jaguars host, wonder whether that's a bad sign for things to come.
Hold up. Well, what's going on here? And I'll tell you right now, I'm covering a team in the NFC East, which means I pay very close attention to the NFC East. There's a quarterback in the NFC East by the name of Daniel Jones, who got a big fat contract from the New York Giants. And if you're watching HBO's offseason Hard Knocks, which is a brilliant idea, and I love that they did it, you're seeing that for everybody from the owner on down, if they could have gotten a quarterback, they would have gotten a quarterback to replace Daniel Jones. And they still owe that dude a good amount of money. Daniel Jones, just for example, is getting top 5 money against the salary cap anyway. He's getting top 5 money against salary cap this year. You think the New York Giants are expecting top 5 production out of Daniel Jones? If they are, they're delusional because they're not going to give top 5 production out of Daniel Jones. Even if he has a great season relative to his previous season, it's not going to be a top 5 season. So no matter what, that team's not going to get what they've invested in. Now, I will give the Jags a little bit of credit, I guess. There's a little bit of time for Trevor Lawrence to mature into this deal, right? 2024, his cap hit among quarterbacks is 16th overall in the NFL. And then when you look into the future, 2025, he's 18th. 2026, I think he's a little bit higher, but he's not like top 10, right? He's 15th. So like the next 3 years, he caps out in the 14, 15 range of top, salary cap numbers for a quarterback. And obviously new contracts are going to come. And so that number will actually dip down probably a little bit by the time it comes. So if you put it in that lens, you're like, okay, well, there's a little bit of time for Trevor to really grow into this deal. But when you look at it through this lens, where he's going to count against your salary cap for $17 million next year, 24 the next year, 35 the next year, $47 million the year after that. And you can't get out of that contract until after the 2028 NFL season. If you cut him after the 2028, before the 2028 NFL season, you're paying at least, do the quick math, $30 million in dead cap space because he's got 2 void years tacked back of that thing. So the Jacksonville Jaguars, look, you don't got to hit the panic button but you kind of start thinking, did we get Daniel Jones? Did we get duped? The Cleveland Browns maybe are regretting a little bit of their Deshaun Watson contract. Like, did we get Deshaun Watson a little bit here? And the problem is when you do that at the quarterback position more than any other position, you hinder your franchise. And honestly, it costs people jobs. Like the guys who were here when that contract got done may not be here when that contract gets shipped off so they can bring in a new quarterback, because that's how bad that contract can possibly be for that team.
I just want us to have a little bit of patience with Trevor Lawrence. Not everyone is going to come in and light the world on fire like Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson. For years in Chicago, Justin Fields from that same 2021 draft class, if you listened to Chicago media, to the national media, it was everyone else's fault. Could not have been Justin Fields. No, it was the coaching. It was the team around him. It was the front office's unwillingness to build a team that made sense for him. And it was all nonsense. It turns out he just was not a very good quarterback. But Trevor Lawrence is actually experiencing what was being described of Justin Fields: gross incompetence from the coaching staff. Moves in free agency that for the last 2 or 3 years have been the ridicule of media circles, of fans, of analysts. This is not a well-run organization. And it wasn't, at least to start Trevor Lawrence's career, a well-coached team. And I'm still not convinced it's a particularly well-coached team. Now, could his play be better? Yes. But I'm willing to give it a little more time. That being said, a top of market deal, $55 million, when he hasn't even, Jordan Love got paid off of 1 year. Trevor Lawrence doesn't even have a year that good. And he got a similar deal. In fact, more guaranteed money. Okay. And finally, French fans do not like Joel Embiid. The superstar center and Cameroon native is a naturalized citizen of France, although he's never lived there. Cameroon was knocked out early in the qualification process for the Olympic Games, so Embiid had a choice to make: USA or France. Now, of course, Victor Wembanyama, Rudy Gobert, also on that French team. He has said that part of his reasoning is because his son was born in the USA, but he has never actually said what his true reason for the decision was. I think I know. He wants to win. Can you ring chase in the Olympics? Medal chasing, we'll call it that. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Lost, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, who will be the most improved team at the Major League Baseball trade deadline? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.